competition isn't about winning. It's about losing. How can I make you lose your concentration, your purpose, your passion, your team, your understanding? How can I make you lose control? Because if I can make you lose, I win. Evidently, this is finding out what is your weakness. Is it your ego? Is it your self-esteem not being fully healed from things in your past? Is it your mind? And you don't have enough comprehension to understand when things get confused and how you can level the playing field and move forward. Is it what? Because if you don't find it, somebody else will. And when I find out how you lose, I win. Soul Talk.
I'd love to just start with the flow state, and which is obviously your thing, and I'd love for you to kind of just introduce how you got into what you're doing and how you would describe it.
You see, I think that by listening to you and how you went from your basketball into the meditation, you realize instinctively that both are very similar. It's almost like your brain waves are in a similar state when you're playing your sport at your peak level. And when you are in a meditating state, you find that coherency, you're tuned into that. And my background was very similar. It started from the martial arts, and from a very young age, movement. I got a lot of feedback with movement-based activities. Anything that encouraged me to move my body, I loved it. I was good at it. I was naturally athletic with everything that I did. And I gradually, as I got a little bit older, maybe I think about 12 or 13, I got into martial arts heavily. But before that, I have an uncle and a great uncle heavily influenced me with books on Zen and meditation from a young age. I remember a time with my uncle would teach me how to meditate, even though I didn't really have a clue what was going on. He would sit me down, and it was like he taught me through the rules of karate. And as he taught me in the rules of karate, he was teaching me meditation. Simultaneously, as he was teaching me that, he was pointing me into the direction of flow, and that's feeling of being, in that sort of peak state. Because that was really the hunt for the martial artist, to have that coherence between mind and body, the warrior's instinct sort of thing. And that unlocked your flow, your energy with everything that you're doing. So I kind of had that at a young age. And then as you get a little bit older, going through the teens, you start putting blockages around that unknowing to you. You start putting down other beliefs and patterns that block you from this. Mine was always like a light going on and off all the time, but because of other people's influences, you should do this, you should do that, train hard, you're not moving enough, you're not training enough. It would block this connection to this sense of being in flow. And as I progressed on and on through life, and the fields and jobs that I took on were sporting, personal trainer, sporting background, I began to listen more to that spark inside than the external. I started knowing certain factors that would play in when I could hear this or sense this better, And as that path began to build momentum, I became more funneled with what it was. So everything was pointed towards flow. And then as I grew and grew and grew with it, I learned more ways of tuning myself and then directing others into that state of flow. I sort of tuned into this. It was this sweet spot. I felt good when I was doing my martial arts, when I was at the peak. I felt like, I was Jean-Claude Van Damme or something like this, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I felt like, it's the same idea that I can imagine it would be you when you play your game of basketball and You're just in the zone, you're in the pocket, you're in that present, you're in the now. That's how I felt. And just like you, it was like, okay, how do I get into that state more? Because it's that state where I feel my best and I perform my best. So the hunt for that you created to get to where you are is the same hunt that I've gone through as well. And it's the same, we're both expressing it in different ways, but yet we're pointing everybody to the same direction. You maybe use the zone or a different terminology from what I do, but we're both, one, connected brothers, sisters, lovers. We're all one. We're just, we're all pointing the same direction.
So what we should be doing, we should be having some talks, some soul talks. And you probably think like, how can your soul talk if your soul don't talk? That's where you're wrong. You gotta listen. Too much talking going on. You gotta listen. Self-reflect. Self-reflect, let your soul talk. The more you talk, the less you listen. The more you listen, the less you talk. The more you listen, the more your soul talks. It's all about nature, natural. Birds doing what they're supposed to do. Waterfalls doing what it's supposed to do. Nature doing what it's supposed to do. Close your mouth. Allow your soul to talk because that's natural. Doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter where you're from, how much money you have. Let the soul talk. You get a lot of answers that way too.
I've seen you work with athletes, maybe not basketball players in per se. I know you work with fighters and all kinds of like extreme sport athletes and stuff. And I know this is a broad question, but I want it to be, so you can kind of just lay it out as best you can. Because I've seen you talk a lot about hacking the flow state, and I love that language too, because the hack implies that you have a way to break in. Talk to me about what that process is.
So do you remember in the beginning I was explaining how as you go through life, puts things around you and blocks you, bullshit, and blocks your people's opinions and everything like this, okay? And really, it's like the expression Michelangelo used, the statue's there, he just needs to hack away to reveal the statue. The marble,
right.
He would hack away and reveal the statue. So with flow and that terminology is the same idea. I am, for a better word, stripping away all the bullshit that stopped you being yourself completely. So how I do that, how I tune people quickly into their optimal state, I use a type of meditation. I use breathing, everything to get you into that sweet spot. So for instance, the approach that I do with meditation is in a three steps. The first step is I use breathing to sort of blank the mind, right? So it's kind of like I'm blanking my mind. Then what I would do is I would remember a time that I was, let's say, playing basketball. I was seeing my teammates, I was seeing my opponents, I heard the crowd. I was, I had the ball, I was right-handed, and my left hand was here. I could hear, the opponent was resting against my hands. I could feel the sweat on his chest. I could hear the noises. And as I'm doing that, creating that remembrance at the time, my subconscious is sort of sprinkling the same neurotransmitters and hormones as if I'm actually experiencing flow. So I use my experience to bring it on in the moment, in the now. And the meditation portion begins at that point where that feeling of flow builds in my system. So I'm painting that picture in my mind, that movie in my mind, everything. The smell, the taste, the noise, everything's there. And as I'm doing that, this feeling grows and grows and grows in my body. There's where my meditation is. I'm meditating on the state of flow, my state of flow. Do you know what I'm saying? Then the other way I do it is it's like with games like basketball, the game can pull you into flow.
Yeah.
The person that stops you is yourself. Okay, so let's say generally we maybe get nervous or scared or anxious. Breathing, and specifically nasal breathing, is a great way of allowing yourself to get into the sweet spot. So here we go. When you're playing the game, you're going through something called, something that links into the conversation, is heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is a coherence between your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. When you're playing basketball, there is a coherence between the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. There is a dance going on. There is a game going on inside here, inside your body as it's happening, right? Let's say the game makes you more sympathetic. Oh shit, I'm on the game here, I'm on the court. Breathing brings you more parasympathetic, so it'll help you calm down. Some of the attributes of being in the flow. There's a guy called Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he's written down a number of different components or behaviors that you would experience when you're in flow. And one of them is where action merges with awareness. Okay, you lose your inner critic, action merges in there, and you become the game. Now, normally this all sounds very sort of airy-fairy and fluffy bullshit stuff, but when I explain it to people that have tasted it, take away the language I'm using to explain that and just listen to what's going past that language. So breathing on the court correctly will put you in it. Meditation exercises before the game, and obviously building a consistency with that specific type of meditation, is like priming you for the game. It's like telling your system, this is the state we're going to be in when we go on this court. So if you're taking coffee or certain foods that's making your nervous system more one direction, more sympathetic, but you on that specific day need to be a bit more parasympathetic, then there's no control. So really the art of tuning into flow, there is hacks to get in there and it gets you hooked into it. But the real life hack is making your life in a state of flow where you prime every situation to allow life, the game, pre-game, post-game, everything to pull you into it. The flow state is easy to understand in a way of like there's 4 cycles of it. Okay, so kind of if you think of like like you see these brainwave graphs, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you split it into 4, the beginning portion is that struggle. So that's where you're trying to burst into your second wind when you're on the court. You're just trying to get into your second gas. If you've not done that before, if you're doing it during the game, okay, so you're in that struggle phase where you're trying to find your coherence with your team, coherence with your teammates, right? Then you'll go into the second phase, which is called the release phase, and that's where you go into you focus on your breathing. You calm yourself down, or you switch yourself on depending on the breathing and depending on the situation. Then you hit that sweet spot when you're in flow. Then after you've gone through that, then you go into the recovery stage. Boom. When you understand this here, you'll see that there's a peak state of flow, but if you turn that upside down, there is also a calming of flow. So let's say after your training sessions, you might be in a flow with the drills that you're doing, but after, on the way home, sitting on the couch after you relax or sitting with, you'll be thinking about it, and there'll be a flow to the thought as well. How did I do that move? What was it? You have that struggle. And then you have that, oh yeah, I did that. You relaxed into it. And then you have the flow of the thought of what you were doing. And that thought, as you know, is solidifying it into your subconscious. So both parts of it are important.
Because when you practice meditation, your mind will be more focused on the present moment. You have less thought about the past. You have less worry about the future. And without the practice of meditation, normally your mind only gonna be in the present moment just for 10%. And think about it, just only 10%, you see how much we can do. It's a lot, right? But if we can really tap into the zone, we can do so much more.
As I started to look more into like Zen and mindfulness and meditation, I started to realize that I I already meditate sometimes. Like after a basketball game, I'm sure as you just described, like after a game, I'm able to play every dribble I took, every shot I took, every turnover, every move, every sequence was just running back in my head like a reel, like a highlight reel. When I got to my training, those parts where I wasn't satisfied or where I wanted to perform better, pull up jump shot at the elbow or shooting a three off the dribble or whatever it was that didn't feel comfortable or where I wasn't satisfied, I attacked that spot. It was like the hunt. I love how you put it like that. It's like the hunt to get myself back to that space. And in that example, that's a sense of wanting to improve, getting back into that flow for a state of development or improvement for when you get back in the next time.
That's exactly it, man. And like, here's something to remember as well, right? We're used to certain traditional ways of meditating in the West here, but in the East, they've got a whole catalog of different meditations as well. They will use visualization on certain things that has a connection to the source of life, to the universe, to them, right? So let's say, I don't know, but let's say they're thinking of a candle, and they'll associate that candle as being connected to the source of life, right? When they do their meditations, their brain waves, there's parts of it that lessen in activity, you know. They'll go into a sort of variation of a transient hyperfrontality, which just so happens to be the same state as we go into when we're in flow. Anyway, you go into that transient hyperfrontality, and then there's a portion of the brain called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It lessens in activities as well when they're doing these specific meditations. And that seems to be like the door to you being connected to the source of life. You get that feeling of being at one, okay? So they used meditation, visualizing, and sound, we'll just talk about visualizing, to induce a state of being connected to everything. Okay, so when you're doing your basketball and playing your game, and you're in that sweet spot, you're only thinking of success. You're not thinking about when you were not. And when you're in success, you were in the zone, you were in the flow, okay? Some of the characteristics everybody describes is being connected, being at one with what they're doing, right? The surfers at one with the wave, the rock climbers at one with the mountain. You are at one with the team, the game. So when you visualize, you are doing a form of meditation, and you're doing a form of meditation that connects you to what you describe, you know, as being unification, being at one with what you're doing.
How would you describe kind of just like the balance of flow and just, you know, again, kind of thinking about like literally the nature of basketball, 5 people on a team trying to work together in a high paced game, right? Of course, you're going back and forth. You have to play offense and defense. You know, the game stops sometimes to shoot free throws. It speeds back up again. You might start playing a full court press and then it speeds up and then things slow down. You might be just running a half court offense. So like that change of speed, change of pace. What are your thoughts kind of on that generally?
Let's say, for instance, you would relate to this, that the team of 5 were all meditating together, but they were doing a breathing meditation. But the breathing meditation, they had to go at the pace of, let's say there's Michael Jordan's in the game, right? He's El Capitano, okay? So he sets the breathing rate. Everybody else breathes at his rhythm with the meditation. Now, as you do that, what will happen is it's a way of connecting to El Capitano, the leader, if you like, of the game. So you can use breathing purposely for the players to connect to the one thing. And as you do that, they become one. They become a team, right, through breath. So this way can be done in a close, so let's say they're all fairly close and they get in that breathing rate. Okay, they're in the rhythm together with that. Now let's say they have to extend the distance between themselves from it. So let's say there's a basic drill that they're doing. Excuse my ignorance with it. Maybe they're working on the triangles or whatever it is, right? But they're doing it again to the breath. So let's say maybe they're going out, breathing as they pass the ball, breathing as they catch it. They're going with that same breathing rhythm that's kept with throughout. Mm-hmm. So this is a way that the team can remain a team during the whole thing. I don't want to talk too airy-fairy, you know, but the energies will coincide. They will find a coherence and it will stick with the strongest person that's on that team. if they allow themselves to be in that meditation. So all they do, they'll do the breathing, they'll connect through the breathing. Then the coach would say, hey guys, remember the time where we were, I don't know, 20 points down and you came back and this happened and this happened. And the coach is talking about it like a guided meditation of what was happening. And the players are feeling it and they're in it. So they're connecting to how they feel at peak state. So this is before the game, right? So let's say during a game, they then have those same two hacks or tools to get them in, right? So the game breaks and something happens, so there's a timer or whatever it is, and they're beginning to lose focus. So they have those two tools again. The coach's verbal cues of Gene them back up with the same language that they use to build the energy. The players connecting to what that feels like to be in a sense of flow. And they're so attuned to that because they've used specific meditations prior to the game day on the game. So you've got that sense of it. And they also have their breathing to keep themselves in a coherent state. Breathing, if you breathe just through your nose, okay, you're going to release more nitric oxide in your system. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator. So if you feel tense and tight, nitric oxide opens up your blood vessels, it increases the flow in your body better. So if you're on the game and you're struggling to find your flow, shut your mouth and breathe through your nose. And this will help you get yourself into that sweet spot.
Wilson, give me an example of an experience you had or experiences you've had or things you've seen of that have really been peak examples of how powerful the mind can be.
The documentary Last Dance, I'm watching the focus of Michael Jordan. And like, let's say anybody that's not a basketball player, right? Let's pretend nobody's a basketball player here. And they look at that man and the focus that he has and the drive that he has is something that I think is crucial for your ability to be excellent in anything that you do and flow. Michael Jordan, for what I observe, has a clear intention, and that is to win. Now, maybe at the time he doesn't use the word, but I'm sure when he was describing how it felt, he felt like everything was flowing. His intention was set no matter what. You know, all the bullshit we spoke about before that blocks you. You got to see the secret is like that bullshit never gets stopped thrown at you.
Yes.
If anything, more of it gets thrown at you.
Right.
So you have to develop the warrior mentality, like we spoke about before. Sorry to bring the martial arts into it, but that warrior mentality, where you're so focused and driven, you're not listening to anything that's not going to fuel that focus and drive to where you're going. So the intention has to be set, then the flow will follow. You have to flow in something. You know, this is a discipline. It sounds crazy, but if you want to find flow, hack flow, tune into your optimal self, it takes discipline. In proper meditation, what you're developing, a focus of mind, a discipline to do the exercises, a focus and discipline. You need these attributes to be successful. Jordan, I don't know why I'm looking this way. Jordan, to me, had that focus that nothing would disguise, would cover him up, and that momentum that he built over the years behind that. You know, you need to be consistent with your intention that you want. You need to be consistent in what you want to achieve. You know, and to me, when I look at Jordan in basketball, I don't know what he was like in other parts of his life. But in basketball, it was a real lesson. Can I be that focused? Can I have that sort of focus and drive for everything that I do?
Yeah, right.
You know? This is my passion and drive. I love to see people hitting that sweet spot, you know, because when you're in flow, you have those, you know, those powerful neurotransmitters and hormones, you know, and you're in a euphoric state. You know, you have that anandamide, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, what else do you have? Endorphins, and lots of other powerful, potent neurotransmitters. So you feel awesome. So for me to be able to help people feel awesome, and then, as you know, in a group setting and flow, when you're in flow, there is that camaraderie, that sort of, you know, I love you, man, sort of vibe going on. And this is oxytocin, this connection there. So to help people tune into that state, there's my passion. That's what I want to do. And using sports and movements is, for me, the best way to do it, because they're not looking after their body as much as they're looking after the mind. Then, hey, and saying to the people that are looking after the mind and not looking after, there has to be a coherence between the physical and mental. And for me, I have an emphasis on both. I attack people both physically and mentally and emotionally. You know, so that's my approach to getting people into flow. And you can find me online.
It's so great to meet you, man. Seriously, it's an honor. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, bro, for taking the time.
Thanks very much for having me, man. And you know, if you need me again, just reach out.
Oh man, thank you, man. I hope to connect again soon. Seriously, keep fighting the good fight, brother.